Hey, Spencer here. Before we get started, we have set up a Patreon page so that you guys can hopefully support us and keep us making podcasts and delivering cool, fun content for you guys. So if you would go over to patreon.com/whatifpodcast, check it out. We got a few different levels that you guys can contribute at and a few different rewards that correlate to those levels. So we're going to be doing some extra episodes. We're going to be doing some video content. If you contribute $10 a month, we've got a sweet What If enamel coffee mug that we did a very limited run of, and that is exclusively for Patreon contributors. So please go over to What If Podcast on Patreon. That's patreon.com/whatifpodcast. And if you could throw us a couple bucks, it would help us keep the mics on and keep delivering you guys great content every week. Cool. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the What If Podcast with your hosts, Spencer Worth Davis and Ryan Copperrood.
This is the What If Podcast.
Hey.
Hi, Spencer.
Hey.
How are you today?
Hey.
Hi.
I'm doing good, man.
Was that the Dipset A? Hi.
No, but it should have been.
Okay.
Fuck with Dipset.
Ooh, that'll be some Dipset drops for next week.
Yes, we shall.
Yes, we shall.
We'll get the A-Rap music, just scream that he puts in all his beats
definitely.
too. Just scare the shit out of people.
Dude, what's going on?
It's been, I was trying to learn about oceans, and then I just got off on this, like, Antarctica is fucking weird as fuck tangent, and no one knows anything about what's going on down there.
All right.
And it's super old, and we need to do an episode about Antarctica. It was my conclusion. That's not what we're doing today. We're doing what if you mapped the oceans, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Yes.
What if you mapped the oceans?
What if you mapped the oceans?
Yeah. But just real quick.
Yeah, man.
Antarctica is
sidebar. Antarctica.
Starting with a tangent. Antarctica is fucking weird as balls.
What was the specific connection that got you from oceans to Antarctica? Just that, like, there are oceans around Antarctica?
It's surrounded by them, and I
okay.
figured if anywhere, that would be where we would know the least about the oceans.
Sure, because it's the least accessible.
Most of what we know about the oceans has been mapped by ships, and ships don't go to Antarctica very often, if ever. Okay. 6th largest lake in the world by volume is underneath Antarctica.
What?
So,
man, I was about to ask one of the dumber questions I've ever asked on this podcast, and I've asked some doozies.
Show me what you got.
I was just going to say, isn't Antarctica just a giant block of ice?
The answer is no.
Okay. So it is a landmass.
There is land.
Okay.
With a lot of ice attached to it.
But it is mostly frozen?
I don't know what the ratio is, but there's definitely a continent there that's not just ice.
Okay.
But so there's a sheet of ice, the East Antarctic ice sheet.
Yes.
That is at an elevation of 11,000 feet. So what is that? 2 and some miles?
Yep.
13,000 feet below that, so almost 3 miles below it, there is a lake 500 meters below sea level.
How do we even know that?
Because we've drilled down to it.
We've drilled down 13,000 feet?
Yeah. People have drilled into the earth way farther than 3 miles.
I guess.
Dude, it's larger than Lake Michigan, and it's entirely under a sheet of ice in Antarctica. It's called Lake Vostok, by the way. I guess I never said that.
Damn.
And it's probably been isolated, as in there's consistently been ice over the top of it for 15 to 20 million years.
Okay.
It's had its own ecosystem the size of Lake Michigan for 15 to 20 million years.
How quickly is global warming going to fuck that up?
I don't know, but they're going to be fucking dinosaurs crawling out of it when it does.
God, I hope so. Actually, I don't, because remember when we talked about Enceladus that time?
Yeah.
This is the same thing that scares me about Enceladus, is like, do we not know that some crazy viral disease has been frozen down there with like some dead fish dinosaur? And as soon as that motherfucker comes to the surface, surface. Dude, wait. Can Dead Fish Dinosaur be another band name?
Yes.
Hey, Grim, if you're still listening, hit us back, bro. I hit you on Twitter. This Serbian designer named Grim wants to design a band t-shirt for us for Robot Grandma.
Yeah, we got another one for you. Dead Fish Disaster, what'd you say?
Dead Fish Disaster is pretty good too. Dead Fish Dinosaur.
There we go.
A dead fish dinosaur with a crazy viral disease that has been frozen under the surface. They're going to bring it back to some
That band name is too long. We got to shorten that down.
They're going to come examine it and be like, oh, I wonder what's in this fish. And it's going to be like, oops, the plague that wipes out everybody is what it's going to be.
Only one way to find out, I guess.
I guess you got to drill down a couple miles.
Yeah, Antarctica is fucking weird. There are a bunch of like military bases that have been made and abandoned, and it's, yeah.
I'm into it.
What the fuck is going on Antarctica?
We'll call that
coming soon.
Yeah, we'll call that an intro to an episode.
We should do a spinoff instead of the What If podcast, just the What the Fuck podcast.
I'm pretty sure that already exists.
What?
Is it WTF Mark Barron?
Well, you know.
How about What the Fuck is up with?
Yeah, that's probably good. Shout out to LaCroix, by the way.
Shout out to LaCroix.
Give us your money.
Yeah. We noticed you guys don't advertise on anything, and maybe that's just because everyone drinks LaCroix, but
it's a tasty beverage.
All right. So before we get started with Mapping Oceans, we have one more sidebar. Well, two if you count the other one. We wanted to talk about a quick bit of news. Some of you may have seen in the news this week that notorious hacker group Anonymous
Notorious goofy asses Anonymous.
With their
notorious mask wearing neckbeards Anonymous.
with their same footage, new audio robot every time.
Fucking looped a GIF and put a robot voice over it. Robot grandma reading about how NASA and like
let's say what they announced first.
Go ahead.
What they said is that they believe they've obtained a leak that says that NASA is preparing to announce the existence of alien life. Now, speaking of Enceladus,
you want to make a bet?
Yeah,
I bet they don't.
Can we bet Anonymous some Bitcoin that's not going to happen? But they are saying that the announcement would come with evidence of crashing. I think it's like crashing a sensor or a satellite into Enceladus.
Isn't Europa first?
I can't remember.
I don't know. That's also not scheduled for like another few years.
I don't know, man.
Anonymous is...
Spencer and I are both very skeptical that we will be getting a NASA announcement about alien life anytime soon. As much as I know both Spencer and I would really be psyched if that happened.
Just like they try and make it sound so important and ominous and like, why do you need creepy music in the back of your video?
Why do you makes it more believable?
No, it doesn't. Why do you need to say National Aeronautics and Space Administration instead of saying NASA? Like, shut the fuck up.
Sounds more important.
Yeah, because none of it is actually important. And somebody probably just started a YouTube channel called Anonymous so they could get 800 million subscribers and loop the same stupid fucking footage that they put on every one of their videos.
Some of it's confirmed as in like some of the things are related to some of their other activity and stuff. But yeah, that's a pretty good way to get 800,000 views and make like 10 grand on YouTube video ads quick, is say, aliens are real. We have proof. All right,
we're not going to tell you what the proof is, but we're going to say a lot of meaningless bullshit and make it sound scary.
Right.
All right. So yeah, aliens are real.
According to
there
Anonymous.
You go, guys. Settled.
Well,
podcast is over.
for all of our sakes. Yeah.
You don't need any proof or anything. Some guy in a mask said so. It's real.
Spencer and I will keep our eyes peeled and we'll let you guys know if we hear anything. Also this week, a quick bit of news before we get into oceans. Before we dive into oceans.
I thought we were safe because Mason hadn't been here in a while.
Also this week, we learned that robots can talk to each other.
Yeah.
Not just talk to each other, but invent
their own weird
language?
Robot language?
Dialect? Can you?
I guess it's a dialect because it's based on English.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess that's true, actually. Can you pull up the snippet that you texted me when we first started talking about this?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're talking about the exact same one because I think this happened multiple times.
Yeah, well, that was one of the reasons that Spencer and I wanted to talk about this, because there was I believe Facebook. No, what was the one of them?
It was Facebook.
Okay, so one happened at Facebook and one happened at, I think it was like a Stanford research lab, and there was two separate studies where a similar thing happened within a few months of each other.
The one I was reading about was Facebook is trying to develop chatbots. I'm not exactly sure for what reason. I would assume for like support, and
they're also automating a lot of their messenger stuff right now. Like brands can have like automated responses to engage with people who try to like engage with their brands and stuff like that.
So obviously the goal is to have it be indistinguishable from chatting with a human.
Yeah. What is that rule called again?
The Turing
That's
test. Yeah. Which basically means that a bot would be indistinguishable from a person for like whatever, 90% of the population or something.
Yeah.
But Facebook decided, in order to speed up this process and have them develop more quickly and to kind of test how well they could make decisions about things, they would allow the chatbots to interact directly with each other.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on a technical level exactly what that consists of, but they said that it quote, led to divergence from human language as the agents developed their own language for negotiating. Note, however, that this divergence may not necessarily correspond to lower quality language. It may also indicate different strategic decisions about what to say. So, one hypothesis is that they're actually developing a more efficient way of communicating with each other, but the researchers at Facebook aren't able to figure out what they're actually communicating or if they're actually communicating. And it kind of comes out as just nonsense. Like, I'm going to briefly read a transcript.
Please do.
Of two chatbots named Bob and Alice talking to each other.
Of course they are.
Bob says, I everything else. Alice responds, balls have 0 to me. Bob says, everything else. Alice says, balls have a ball to me. To which Bob responds, everything else. And it goes back and forth for a while.
Oh,
so,
man.
I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that they're developing more efficient or like some sort of hyper language, because it doesn't really seem to be accomplishing much.
Well, so here's the thing about that, though. There's a sentence in another one of the articles that I read that freaked me right the fuck out. And I don't exactly know how this fits into some of the language invention stuff, but one of the quotes I found in another article related to, this is actually also about the Facebook one, said, over time, the bots became quite skilled at language and even began feigning interest in an item in order to sacrifice it at a later stage in negotiation as a faux compromise.
Whoa. Okay.
Again, I don't fully understand how that works practically.
Right.
But the fact that could be a takeaway from them.
That's less about language and more about like strategy, or I guess it depends on how they were negotiating that. But
right. I would say both things separately terrified me equally as much, that a robot would be capable of feigning interest in something to sacrifice it later.
One more thing about the language itself, that interaction that I read part of, that sounds like total nonsense.
Right.
Both chatbots registered that as a quote successful interaction.
Oh,
or a successful negotiation.
Oh, cool.
So they both felt like they had accomplished what they were supposed to accomplish.
Got it.
But to the researchers, it looks like total nonsense.
Hey, teacher, we're done here. We completed your assignment.
We got the right answer. Show your work. Well, balls have to me, balls, I, balls.
Nailed it.
So,
and dismount.
Yeah, if you trust the computers, they said that was a meaningful, successful interaction.
They got what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm always reminded of, and I don't know who said this originally. It's actually, speaking of one of our more recent episodes, I think it might have even been Kurzweil related, but the whole thing about how like when the singularity kicks on, it's going to happen a lot faster than everybody imagines it will.
That might have been it right there.
These are always like the moments that I feel like, are we going to point to this moment where we were like, haha, isn't that crazy? They could feign interest in something so they could compromise later. Like, isn't that crazy, Facebook?
And then tomorrow humans are obsolete.
6 months from now, we're like, oh God, no, no. My car's trying to fucking strangle me or like heat me to death. Like that happens so fast. That escalated quickly.
Yeah, well, maybe that robot saying balls 15 times was the tipping point.
Yeah, man.
We may never know.
We may never know. All right, so those were a couple quick updates. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to throw things on pause, and when we come back, we're going to talk about weird ocean aliens and deep
Colossal
sea
squids.
dives and
Colossal squids
and James Cameron and all kinds of delightful things when we come back on the What If podcast with What If We Mapped the Oceans. We'll see you soon.
We want to hear from you. Send us a message. Email hi, that's hi, at whatifpodcast.com.
So we're talking about oceans today, and
balls have to me, I to me, balls have zero to me.
Successful negotiation.
And we're done.
And we completed an episode.
Yeah, oceans, they're fucking weird.
Why? Okay, so I'm pretty sure you were the first one to originally pitch this. Do you remember what triggered it for you when you were like, bro, the oceans are weird, we should talk about them?
Started thinking about the oceans one day and how fucking weird they are. All right, let me break down just how weird the oceans are.
Please do.
We're gonna start from like least weird to most weird.
All right, I love it.
70% of the Earth is ocean.
I feel like inherently we all kind of realize that, but it's still kind of an overwhelming number when you look at it.
More overwhelming is that 99% of the livable space on the planet is in the ocean.
I have to think about that. Oh, is that because 99% of the livable space, is that because basically all of the ocean is inhabitable by some creature or another?
Is habitable.
What did I say?
Inhabitable.
Isn't that the same thing?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yes.
Volume-wise, it's much more. And there are parts of...
Oh, right. Because it's not flat.
And there are parts of Earth that nothing really... Like the surface that nothing really lives on. Such as Antarctica.
I had to think about that really hard, but I totally get it now. We have a lot more vertical volume.
Yeah. 99% of all life on the planet is in the oceans.
And we just treat it like a fucking dumpster. God, we're terrible.
Yeah. The ocean is also really, really fucking deep. 35,797 feet deep is the deepest part of the ocean, which is roughly, 6 and some miles deep?
Yeah, almost 7 miles.
Deeper than, by over a mile deeper than the tallest point on the surface of the Earth.
Say that again.
So Mount Everest, tallest point on Earth, is like 29 or something thousand.
So 6 miles up, but we go 7 plus down.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that the deepest part in the ocean, or is that...
That is the bottom of the Mariana Trench, which as far as we know is the deepest part of the ocean.
But we might not know.
3,280 feet down is the deepest that sunlight can penetrate.
3,280 feet.
Which means that there is roughly 33,000 feet of that depth that is totally dark, and yet stuff lives down there. Lots and lots of stuff lives down there. In total darkness.
It creeps me out.
Yeah, dude, it's really fucking scary.
I'll tell you when we get into the James Cameron stuff. I'll tell you how freaked out I got.
There is a whale that dove down to 9,800 feet.
9,800. Is that just because we have tracking tags on it? So we know like how far away it is?
That I don't know.
Okay. 9,000 feet underwater.
At the bottom of the ocean floor, or on the ocean floor, the surrounding pressure is roughly 380 times what it is on the surface of the Earth.
wouldn't it like as I like you'd be crushed, right?
Within seconds, yeah.
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 Like,
which is crazy though. There are animals that can live down there. And
yeah, that pressure is not,
I mean,
murderous to them.
Which I was wondering if you then brought an animal like that further up, like, do they have a limit to how far up in the ocean they can go before they explode? Do they have pressure exerting the other way somehow?
That's a really good question. Like, do they just
That's
expand?
probably a really dumb science question.
No, dude.
If you take a fish from
the same thing.
If you take a fish from the bottom of the ocean and bring it up to like 3,000 feet, does it just explode?
Oh, damn. It's like Kirby's Dream Land, like puffing up with air and then it just blows up when it gets out the surface. I mean, I think that's a reasonable question. If that much pressure is being exerted on something and you remove 300 times that pressure, dude, what happens to that being's body?
The pressure on the ocean floor at 30,000+ feet deep is 3 tons per square centimeter.
Oof.
Yeah, that doesn't seem possible.
Maybe our whole, like, this is also going to sound mad dumb, but like, if you bring something down there, how come it doesn't get crushed? Or does it get crushed?
Well, the only things that have been down there are specifically designed to
not
go down
get
there.
Crushed?
Yeah. Like the first dude to go to the bottom of Mariana Trench, a guy named Jacques Piccard, not Jean-Luc Picard.
No.
Jacques Piccard.
What was that expedition called? It had a cool name.
The Challenger Deep mission.
Yes.
Yeah. His dad invented the thing that they traveled to the bottom of the ocean in, called a Bathyscaphe.
I think that actually was the word I was looking for.
Okay. Which he named the Trieste. Not what I would name my thing that's going to the bottom of the ocean, but that's on you.
For those of you who don't know, that means sad in Spanish. So
would have chosen a different name, but it worked out for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, they went down to 35,800 feet.
Damn.
The descent took 5 hours. They carried no scientific equipment with them and did no experiments. They just went down there to prove that you could go down there.
Oh. Was it like a push to get more funding and shit?
I think he just wanted to do it.
Sure. I do feel like the more I read up about this, the dudes that are doing it are largely doing it to be like for a lot of them, it's similar to going to the moon. It's like
there are fewer people who have been on the ocean floor than on the moon.
Right. Like, and for them,
well, in areas that deep, at least.
The deepest parts, right. But like for the dudes that really want to do it, they're like, no, I'm fucking exploring in the exact same way that you are when you go to the moon. Because we know.
Okay. Yeah. Those stats that get thrown around all the time about like, we know more about the surface of Mars than the bottom of the ocean. I found some actual like good information about that. Because I assumed that was either partially true or not true. Or
yeah. I mean, I get it at least where it comes from in that like we have visual evidence and samples from multiple parts of the moon because we've flown shit around it and it's lit up at some point in all parts. Like, I get where, at least conceptually, where that comes from.
So basically, it's really hard to map the ocean floor because you have to use something that can penetrate through the water.
They use like sonar, right?
So sonar has been used for most of the like precise mapping that we've done so far. But that has to be done from on board a ship.
Right.
So the really detailed mapping that we've done has all been along like trade routes, basically.
And I read something.
That really detailed mapping has only been done on 0.05% of the ocean floor.
Oh, Jesus.
We have, however, mapped the entire ocean floor to a resolution of about 5 kilometers, which means that anything larger than 5 kilometers would show up, but it would be like a pixel. So anything like shipwrecks, planes, anything smaller than 5 kilometers across isn't going to show up, which is, so you can see like major geologic, you can see mountain ranges and you can see canyons and stuff.
Right.
But anything smaller than that isn't going to show up. So where the stat about having mapped other planets better, NASA mapped Venus, the surface of Venus, 98% of it to a resolution of 100 meters.
Oh, Jesus.
Mars has been mapped at the same resolution. The entire surface has been mapped at 100 meters resolution, and 60% of it has now been mapped at a resolution of about 20 meters.
God damn.
And the entire surface of the moon has been mapped to 7 meter resolution. So we know the entire surface of the moon down to 7 meters across.
And we know 0.05 of the ocean to whatever resolution that was.
And that's only 100 meters. That's the best that sonar aboard a ship can do.
Wow. I'm surprised.
It's actually, that stat is like pretty accurate.
Really true. Yeah. I'm almost surprised that something hasn't been done to, like, speaking of AI, to like send some robotic sub down and just be like, all right, you're gonna Roomba the ocean floor.
That has
for
been
like
done.
Years.
It has been done, but it's crazy expensive because you have to build something that can sustain, or that can handle tons of pressure per cubic centimeter. And then it's still a huge area. It's like if you tried to map the entire surface of the Earth, it would take forever.
Right.
But it has been done. There was one, this was in the late 90s, I think. There was an unmanned submersible.
Sure.
So a robot submarine, basically, that was sent to, it was somewhere near Mariana Trench, down to the ocean floor. And while it was down there, collected over 350 previously undiscovered species. One sub found 350 species of, I don't know if it was, if that's counting like bacteria and everything.
Microbials.
350 things that we didn't know existed before it went down there. And that was in like a square mile or something.
Have been that big, right? Yeah, that's another one that I feel like is so crazy when we talk about like what if we could actually map it. Like, I feel like every time we go down, we find all kinds of stuff, right? I feel like we find all kinds of stuff. We find organic shit, we find biological shit, we find crazy rock formations, we find, like, I have a list here we can go through in a minute, but it's like sometimes we send submersibles down not knowing what we'll find, and like one time they found the rocket engines from the Apollo 11 mission that had never been recovered, and it was literally not sent down to find that. It was just like, oh shit, we're exploring a random area of the ocean and they found one of the rocket boosters. That's
the thing, we know so little about that you don't even know where to start looking because you don't know what's down there anywhere. You might as well just drop something in randomly and be like, here's as good a place to start as any.
Right. And that actually came up too in the stuff that I was researching about the whole Malaysian Airlines crash, and about how when that plane went down, everyone was like, how can you not find a fucking plane? Like, they got there 24 hours. Like, how is shit not floating? Or how are they not, like, how, like, I think I was one of those people. I was like, how the fuck can't you find anything from that plane? Like, you have no evidence.
If it sinks, it's over.
Right. It's like, you don't know where that shit goes down, or you don't know, like, I mean, I know we know a lot about the currents under the ocean, but we don't know enough to know.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know enough to know, I think, like, the very, very broad picture of if you drop something here, where does it end up?
Well, and in that case, you don't even know where it was dropped.
Right. I mean, they had a targeted area, but yeah, exactly.
No, in terms of stuff that's hanging out on the bottom of the ocean, I mean, planes, ships, animals. I mean, there's got to be a whole fossil record that we have never had access to.
Yeah, and I think there's actually, now is a good time for me to pull up that list of cool shit that we found in the bottom of the ocean, because it excites me about the prospect of what we would find if we kept going. Yeah. I mean, if we could get down to a higher resolution of things. This isn't an ocean, but I was reminded of it with the one that you said. In 1985, off of the coast of New Jersey, dating back to what they believe is the 1850s. There is a graveyard of locomotives. So like actual train engine locomotives. They call it a graveyard.
Pardon?
Yeah. And there's no known record of why they would be in that location. So some people suspect that they fell off a barge that was like trucking them from Michigan to somewhere or from somewhere to Michigan.
Wait, shipping them?
Yeah.
Got it.
What did I say?
Trucking.
Oh, ocean trucking. Shipping.
Call those ships.
Trucking the ocean, boys.
Those old ocean trucks.
As islands are just truck stops, bro.
Water trucks.
Water trucks. Yeah, so shipping these things back and forth from somewhere to somewhere else, but they think they either fell off like when a boat capsized, or also potentially that they were deliberately thrown off a ship that was sinking. So if they were in like rocky waves, they were like, fuck it, cut them loose. I'm not going down with the locomotives.
I found a Reddit thread about the weirdest shit people have seen at sea.
Oh, sweet.
And
oh boy.
And one of the better...
That could probably be its own episode too.
Yeah.
Huh?
One of them was this guy saw an entire herd of cattle floating across the ocean.
Nuh-uh.
Mm-hmm.
Dead or alive?
It looked like dead.
Ew.
And other people chimed in with like, oh yeah, I saw a goat in the middle of the ocean, or I saw a horse, or, and then somebody eventually came in and they're like, oh yeah, people ship livestock, and rather than having livestock arrive dead or sick or injured, they'll just like toss them overboard and say, this is how many we had.
Ooh.
And then sometimes other ships will just see a bunch of farm animals floating in the middle of the Pacific.
Yikes.
So the best guess was somebody had a bunch of sick animals that they didn't want to deliver to whoever they were supposed to deliver them to, and just kicked them off the side of the boat.
Damn, that's fucked up.
Yep.
A great white shark had a super, super delicious dinner that night.
Yeah.
Oy, bro. That's
that would be weird as fuck though. You're in like you're thousands of miles from land and you see a floating herd of cattle.
I feel like I would presume that like the world was ending or something. Like, oh, there's a plague of floating cows.
Or if you're standing like on the deck of a ship and just hear a goat in the distance.
Oh yeah.
All right, weird shit on the bottom of the ocean. What do you got?
Crazy. Okay,
cows.
So
herd of cows.
Yeah, right. Well. What is this bone? I'm pretty sure that's a cow femur. Okay, so in 2001, in the, let's see, it's off of the coast of India. Okay. It's called the Gulf of Cambay.
Sounds like a place.
Yeah, right. They believe that it is the world's oldest city. In 2001, archaeologists found artifacts such as sculpture, human remains, artwork, and even wooden furniture, one piece of which is estimated to be at least 9,500 years old.
Wooden furniture, 9,500 years old?
That's what it says.
How the hell does that work?
I don't know, man.
Okay.
So
underwater cities is a whole nother ballgame that I don't know if we really want to get into, because there's the one off the coast of Japan too.
Yep.
An ancient city sunk by just kidding. Write your articles better. Don't describe Atlantis in the middle of your article about Japan. But yeah, they found a bunch of structures and sculptures and shit buried off the coast of Japan.
Right.
About 75 miles or so.
And granted,
which like the coastline of Japan used to extend 75 miles farther than it does now. Yeah. Like that doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, that does seem interesting. And like, granted, what we are talking about is at least somewhere near a coastline. Like, I don't think either of us are inferring that we're going to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and find a city.
But we haven't looked either. Most of the stuff we know about the ocean is near coasts. We don't know.
I mean, that's true.
There could definitely be islands that have come and gone over the years.
Definitely. There's have you heard about the Baltic Sea anomaly?
I have.
Yeah, that's
You mean the Millennium Falcon?
That's another good one.
That is most likely a rock that is shaped sort of like a UFO hiding out at the bottom of the ocean.
I would say there are some interestingly like suspicious straight lines that like run through and around it, but also a lot of scientists and archaeologists will say that like limestone breaks in straight lines, and it's obviously patterned in straight lines sometimes. So it's
with
not
the Baltic Sea thing. People have said that they've had issues with electronic equipment near it too, which who knows, could be coincidence.
Bermuda Triangle.
Hey,
there's that. Look up the Baltic Sea anomaly if you want just a goofy picture of something. I feel like a lot of people have photoshopped that to be more.
It's like the ocean equivalent of the face on Mars and like structures on the moon and all that shit.
For sure.
That I don't really give any credit to.
I feel you.
Although the one X-Files episode about the face on Mars is brilliant.
Ooh.
Yeah, the guy gets possessed by it.
Should we start a whole new... Oh, really?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Possessed by the face?
It's like the second or third ever episode of the X-Files. It's brilliant.
I think we could start a whole new segment of me getting roasted for TV I haven't seen either. Which would start with the X-Files.
You've never watched it? It's not on Netflix anymore.
Oh, that's kind of soft. I actually was going to start watching it, being like...
You guys should go give us some money on Patreon so that we can buy the entire box set of the X-Files so Ryan can catch up.
And it'll be like episode 56 and I'll be like, bro, did you see episode 34 of season 2 of the X-Files? And you'll be like, yeah, bro, like so did everyone else in 1998. Yeah, we did do that. Side note, we started a Patreon.
If you want to find us, I'm sure you can just search What If Podcast on Patreon. Or if you scroll down a little bit, I'll put a link to it right below this.
Yeah. We're still putting the nuts and bolts together, so it's not going to be perfect when you see it, but it'll be...
it'll be perfect.
It'll be...
I got 24 hours. It'll be perfect.
It'll be something. And it's a few of you have suggested and requested, and so thanks for doing that one, and thanks to anybody else who wants to kick in.
We'll put your money to good use, like catching Ryan up on the X-Files.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
It's patreon.com/whatifpodcast, so should be easy to find.
Sweet. No, I agree with you about like the face on the moon stuff and all that. But I do think it is definitely interesting, like the shapes and formations and animals and cities and boxcar fucking graveyards. And like, there are so many things that we just lose in the fucking dark, opaque, deep, inaccessible vastness of the ocean. That is crazy and cool and terrifying and seems almost kind of also like insurmountable in a way.
And if you think, our current record of civilization goes back, a few thousand years?
Sure.
Maybe I'm bad at history.
I mean,
10
more than that, but not a ton more than that.
Yeah, whatever it is. However long ago the Egyptians started doing stuff. That's probably wrong too. Whatever. Fuck it. But like, if we look at, where some people think we're headed now with climate change and looking at likely having some coastlines change and flooding, and, we've also, you hear about all the time how that's likely cyclical and we're maybe just expediting what was probably going to happen eventually anyway.
Right.
And then you think about how the planet is billions of years old. Why couldn't there have been civilizations that just got wiped out? And if there were records of them in the oceans, we would never have any idea unless we stumbled across it.
Right.
And even then it would be really hard to excavate and do anything about it and learn anything from it.
Right.
Especially depending on how long it had been down there.
Do you think the planet will go in reverse where like with global warming, all the icebergs will melt and all the water will rise, and then it will start burning off all the water because it'll be so hot that everything will just continue to recede again? And then eventually we'll be able to go 75 miles off the coast of Japan to go visit that
you're
city.
saying we'll go even further in the other direction?
Yeah, because it'll get so hot that it'll burn off all the liquid.
I don't know. I think
I sure hope not.
I don't think every culture and religion has flood myths for no reason, though.
Yeah, that's real.
I think there's probably something to that. Other than maybe just we're naturally scared of water because there's a lot of it and it kills us if we go in it.
It's true. We're not very good about doing that for a long time.
There's really big stuff out there too.
That is an angle of this that we won't have time for today, but I was kind of wanted to be like, do the whole what if we lived in the oceans thing or on the oceans or around the oceans thing. The span of recorded history is roughly 5,000 years.
Oh, cool. I was right in the middle of that.
So you were right in the middle of that.
I think I said 2 and then I said 10.
I think it says the earliest chronologies date back to the 2 earliest civilizations, the ancient Sumerians of Mesopotamia and the early dynastic period of Egypt, which emerged independently of each other from roughly 3,500 BC.
Look at that. I even kind of got one of the right cultures too. Forgot about the Sumerians. I should know better.
Hey, it's okay.
We're
getting better all the time.
The Sumerian culture is the genesis of all the ancient alien shit.
Right. Yes.
They had the first written language and interacted with the Anunnaki.
And moved big blocks of shit.
With their minds something. Or with their alien hands.
With their alien rays.
Yeah.
Dope. All right. Well, so I guess we've very thoroughly covered what we wish we could find or what possibly gets found at the bottom. We're going to take one more quick break here and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about James Cameron. And we're going to talk
a little
Titanic? Where I have seen Titanic.
All right, cool. I saw it for the first time like 2 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah. It's not very good.
You say it's not very good?
Not if you watch it when you're 30 in 2016.
When did that movie come out?
I think I saw it must have been the 20-year re-release. I went and saw it in the theater.
Okay.
So it probably came out in like 95 or 96 or something.
Okay, so I saw it like...
Titanic. Jesus Christ.
Bro,
I think I just had a stroke.
Bro, you struggling with how to spell Titanic right now?
Did you
go T-Y? Tell me you went T-Y.
No, I went T-I-T-A-N. Everything's going great so far.
We're almost home.
T-I-C. Titanic.
Titanic?
I spent too much time learning about Antarctica today.
Titanic
97.
97. Okay. So I saw that movie when I was like 11, and I remember 2 very specific things. One of which was my mother or father, I don't know which one, covering my eyes.
I was going to say, was the first one boobies?
In the nudity scene.
Okay.
Yep. And then I remember, and bro, like being legitimately traumatized by the scene where the ship's going down and they lock the people in the lower parts and like the water is like coming up and that you can like see them start to drown. As an 11-year-old dude, that scene was so fucking traumatizing, especially because later I like asked a teacher about it and they were like, oh no, that really happened. And I was like, fuck. Oh God. I remember just crying like a child. And I was a child, I guess. I was fucking 11.
Well, we're going to take a break and start talking about Titanic.
Cameron, who gave me that traumatic moment.
I guess we're going to talk about Titanic when we come back.
We're not, but we are going to talk about James Cameron and a different journey to the bottom of the sea that doesn't involve hitting an iceberg. We'll be right back in a second.
Hey, Ryan. Tell us about James Cameron.
Oh, man. Shouts out to that guy for playing a recorder. What a beast.
All right, let me tell my story.
I have a story about James Cameron.
All right, let me tell my story.
You can insert that every time.
Maybe. I realized I hadn't played it yet, and it's a great drop that I found on a Bigfoot video from Goodwill today.
Support us on Patreon, and we're thinking about doing giveaways of some of the weird shit that we buy in order to make this podcast, which includes some very strange books that both Spencer and I have bought, as well as some wild VHSs.
I found out that the Goodwill outlet sells VHS tapes by the pound.
What
for 29 cents a pound, I believe.
I don't even have words for how phenomenal that measurement of vending items is.
You got to go there sometime. And if your city has one, you also need to go there. There are just bins of stuff all over the store. that are not organized in any way.
Sure.
They're very loosely organized as clothes or not clothes.
Okay.
Other than that, it's just a fucking free-for-all. And you grab a cart and you fill it with whatever you want to fill it with, and you bring it up to the counter or the register, and the register is just a scale, and you put your shit on the scale.
Awesome.
And then they tell you an absurdly low price, and then you give them that money, and then you leave. And I grabbed probably 15 cassettes today,
Which
and
includes...
I think it was $1.29.
Oh, phenomenal.
Which I know that's an item that no one really wants, and like people would probably give me VHS tapes if I asked.
But we do.
But they also have stuff that you might actually want.
Do they though? Because
Yeah.
my initial thought is that a Goodwill outlet is like the stuff from all the other Goodwills that they could never sell, so they brought it to here.
Yeah. That's what it is. But that doesn't mean that there's not. I mean, most of it is junk. But there's definitely good stuff mixed in. And yeah, you leave the junk and you wash your hands when you leave. And
Yeah, probably.
you once in a while find some cool shit.
Do they have like I wonder? Probably not. I was gonna say, do they have like cool like old pots and pans or like?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah. Dude,
Damn.
there was a decent turntable there that would have cost me 75 cents if I
Well,
needed a
shit.
fifth turntable.
All right, guys. Goodwill.
Goodwill outlet.
Hey, also Spencer and I have spent enough money on shopgoodwill.com that Goodwill should totally sponsor this podcast.
I don't think they do that.
Advertising? Do they not?
I guess they do.
Holler at your local Goodwill and connect them with us if you...
I think I could probably handle that.
Well, that's true.
But yeah,
We have a pretty good connection.
shout out to Goodwill.
All right, shout out to Goodwill.
Anyway, James Cameron.
Every night in my dreams, I see James Cameron. No, I don't. But James Cameron did, in partnership with both National Geographic and Rolex, made a 3D movie about his journey to the bottom of the ocean.
Rolex?
Yeah.
Because they're...
Diving watches? It's loose. Don't.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I'm done thinking about it.
Yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say. So basically, what he wanted to do was, what was the name of the mission that you referenced the first time? The
Operation Deep Dive. Fuck.
something. Yeah, the Bathyscaphe. Oh man,
Bathyscaphe, by the way.
Bathyscaphe. Thank you.
Um,
Trieste. Yeah, the Bathyscaphe Trieste. That's the one.
that was in the like 60s, though.
Yeah, that's the name of the ship. So Cameron wanted to beat their record. There was the purpose of his dive.
I got you.
So they had the record of going to the deepest for the longest. Dude, the article that I have about Cameron's journey totally roasts them. It says, before Cameron's historic dive, only 3 other vehicles had made the descent to the Challenger Deep, the world's deepest known point. In 1960, 2 men descended there in the Bathyscaphe Trieste, a sub bigger than a bus. Once there, they spent only 20 minutes staring at a milky cloud of sediment before returning to the surface. I know it's like generally,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
generally,
that is true.
I know, but it's like only 20 minutes staring at like their trip was fucking bullshit. Like it just
It
seems,
was 1960.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They did
The
it
guy made the thing himself that they were in.
exactly, and they could have been crushed to death.
He didn't have that Rolex money. He had to make his own submarine.
Exactly. But long story short, Cameron apparently is a big explorer and has a bunch of money himself. So he was like, I want to go and break the record and go to the bottom of the ocean. And part of it was also him sort of drawing attention to deep sea exploration as a concept, trying to raise more money for,
Yeah, he's real big on that.
big on the ocean preservation, etc. He says something to the effect of, actually, I can get the real quote here. I've always dreamed of diving to the deepest place in the oceans. For me, it went from a boyhood fantasy to a real quest, like climbing Everest. As I learned more about deep ocean exploration and became an explorer in my real life, it was not driven by the need to set records, but by the same force that drives science and exploration, curiosity. So he just wanted to go do it. And I think one of the most fascinating things about this whole trip is it highlights how insanely difficult it is to actually explore the bottom of the ocean. So they didn't
And how you need
release
Rolex money to even just go down there and
Exactly.
look around for a little bit.
this one adventure cost. So there's a bunch of estimates, but well over $5 million to do just this one dive.
And what did they do exactly?
So Cameron got into a brand new sub that instead of a horizontal bus-sized ship like happened in the 60s, they did a vertical sub so basically it's like an upright tube, a vertical tube.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They just flipped it on its side.
Kind of, yes. Actually, yes.
Okay.
But the reason that they did that was because part of the reason the dudes could only stay down there for 20 minutes was because it took so long for it to settle to the bottom of the ocean because it was taking up actually more space. So it had more
resistance.
Thank you, pushing up on the bottom of it. So they were trying to cut down on the resistance and weight it with motors to send it down.
Okay.
So he could actually spend more time in the bottom of the ocean.
They made it more aquadynamic.
Yes. Well, wow.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
You like that one?
Oh man, I don't know if I could even continue my story now. So a couple interesting facts. Cameron descended 35,787 feet, but his ears didn't pop a single time during the journey because the pressure inside of the metal sphere he traveled in stays constant the entire time.
Right. Otherwise, you're fucked.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, you die.
Exactly. It is a 2.5-inch thick steel sphere attached.
Seems like not enough.
At the bottom of yeah, right. I would want more than that. Attached at the bottom of the submarine. That is in total 43 inches wide.
Whoa. There was a quote I read from Jacques Piccard.
Yes.
Who said his last thought when they closed the door before he started descending was that there was a single bolt holding that door shut.
Oh my God.
And then he's like, pressure will keep it shut once we get down there, I guess.
Oh, that's an interesting concept. Yeah, but if there's a hole or a leak anywhere,
right.
That also means you're fucked.
They heard a sound like half the way down.
Nope.
That was their window cracking.
Oh, man.
Which is part of the reason they only spent 20 minutes down there.
I would have spent 0 minutes down there.
Anyway.
Holy shit.
So Cameron made a tiny ball that he went to the bottom of the ocean in.
Yeah. Water vapor from the pilot's breath and sweat condenses on the cold metal sphere where it drains into a space and is sucked into a plastic bag. Isn't that crazy?
Wait, why?
In an emergency, the pilot can drink it if he gets stuck under the ocean.
Whoa.
But they can't like put other shit in there because the weight is all like super, I don't know.
Does that make sense?
This might answer your question about fish expansion or the lack thereof.
He saw an exploding fish?
No.
Damn it.
No, but there was like a beam of foam in the sub or like around the edges of the sub.
A beam of foam?
Like a layer of some sort of ocean foam between the like the outer edge and the inner edge of the, I don't know, like whatever you would like, insulation, I guess, like foam insulation.
Oh, okay.
In the process of going to the bottom and back up, it shrunk 2.5 inches.
Because it got compressed?
Just from compression from the pressure all the way down.
Makes sense. Did it expand back or it was permanently
That's a good
crushed?
question. It doesn't say. It just says that it shrunk that much. So part of me wonders if it did that and then it stayed that way when it came back up because it had been compressed that hard.
Yeah.
He was in there. He was in the 43-inch thing for a total of 9 hours.
Yeah.
Which sounds super intense to me.
Although I guess if the pressure where you are is staying the same, I mean, you don't have to worry about decompression sickness or any of that stuff. You could descend as quickly as your vehicle would allow, right?
Yeah, but the trip down still takes like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Or like 3 hours, I think.
It was 5 when they did it in 1960.
Yeah. So I think it was like 2 or 3 hours down, and then it took like 2 hours back up, and that allowed him to be down there for like 2 or 3 hours, I think. So it was like 3 and 3-ish around there.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically they had a bunch of cameras and they had a bunch of lights, and he was just down there like being kid in the sandbox playing at the bottom of the ocean, trying to get a bunch of footage, which they eventually released into the 3D movie that they made about his journey to the bottom. But yeah, man, $5 million, 9 hours, and 43 inches. The dude took up yoga so that he could both fit in the sphere and be comfortable for the entire time.
Why did it have to be that small?
I think it has to do with like the size and weight, and if it's bigger, then the pressure affects it differently. Like,
Did he go down by himself?
only him
Damn.
the whole way.
Damn.
And at a certain point, I don't think you can communicate with people anymore because there's no line of communication, is there?
I didn't read up on this one, but I know with the Bathyscaphe Trieste, they had communication the whole time.
So how would that? Was it radio? I guess
it was
radio
some
waves
sort
would
of
potentially do it.
And they had a ship directly above them on the surface.
Okay.
That they were able to maintain communication with all the way to the bottom.
Word. I heard that in the future they want to run fiber optic cables along with it, so if they can get 7 miles worth of fiber optic going into the thing and just shoot it straight down, they can stream the video live back up to the surface, and they can communicate better, send a bunch more data, etc.
So the cameras were obviously, he had robotic somethings connected to the
he had
ship.
little like armed like
And
little
then
levers
you've got to
and shit.
every step of that has to be like the cameras have to be encased in something that isn't going to be crushed too.
Right.
Like everything must have to be.
Yeah, I don't have
You got to maintain a constant pressure inside of whatever the camera is housed in too.
Yep. This says
And all the robotic elements and computers and everything.
Every circuit board in the submarine's exterior electronics, over 1,500 of them, was both designed and built specifically for this one submarine.
Yeah.
The sub's
You'd have to.
Yeah. The sub's 4 external cameras are a tenth the size of previous deep ocean HD cameras, with housings designed by the team, and cameras themselves were created from scratch from the sensor up.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. But again,
I mean, that's how you get to spending $5 million too.
Right. But I think it's just fascinating how much it takes to get 3 hours on the bottom of the
For
ocean
one
floor
person.
for one person to be able to do that.
And they weren't doing any sort of scientific exploration. It was just look around and document it.
Yeah, I think they got some samples of stuff, but yeah, it wasn't like part of some bigger initiative to drill or.
I'm saying you'd have to go through that same process for any additional instruments that you brought down there with you.
Right. Yes.
Which would be hugely expensive.
Oh my God.
And they covered a surface area of.
It doesn't say, but it wasn't much.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Square.
No, I don't have
square meters rather than miles, probably.
One thing I thought was super cool. So in order to get back up, the way that he goes down is through a bunch of weights, right? And then to come back up, they basically they can cut the weights to go back up.
Okay.
Hang on, where is this?
Dude, the ocean floor is 140 million square miles. What the hell?
That's amazing.
That's not a real number.
It doesn't sound like one. Okay, so so there's 1,100 pounds of weight that's pulling him down to the bottom of the ocean. And he has a trigger that he can command to let go of the 1,100 pounds that brought him down. That will then, the pressure of the ship will send him back up to the surface. But if the weights don't drop when he pulls the trigger on him, there's a backup release that corrodes in seawater within a fixed period of time to automatically cut the weights so that he can go back to the surface. So like if for some reason the pressure fucks something up and he's trapped in the bottom of the ocean, there's like a locking mechanism that will corrode within a specific number of hours.
So this whatever submarine thing that he was in, it was not propelled in any way? Like when he got to the bottom, could he move around?
Yeah, he moved around at the bottom.
So it also had some sort of small motor on it?
Yep.
Okay. Because the Bathyscaphe thing in 1960, they had some sort of system. They had a cylinder that could be opened to allow water in. And so to sink it, they just kept allowing more water in. And then they were able to expel it back out somehow.
Oh, crazy.
To return up to the surface.
That's crazy.
And I don't think they had a backup plan.
I was going to say, that to me seems like I don't know about that.
Because you got to wonder too, you don't know, oftentimes the water at different, I guess, elevations or different depths can be more or less dense too, based on the salt, like the amount of salt in it.
I don't have any scientific knowledge behind me saying, yes, that sounds about right.
Well, I know, at least I've read about, there are channels or rivers basically under the ocean at different depths.
Sure.
That are based on either the temperature or the density of the water. So like a really briny, super salty water will sit below less salty water because it's actually heavier.
It's almost like drilling layers of like rock in the earth or whatever. Like you get down to different layers of sediment or whatever. Right.
So that would seem extra dangerous if you didn't necessarily know the density of the water that you were descending into or taking on. If you might get to a point where it would seem like you could get to a point where you could get stuck part way too.
Right.
Dude,
it all terrifies me, man.
Yeah, it's so adventurous, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like these guys did not know what they were getting into.
Right.
They didn't even know that there could be, before this 1960 expedition, that there could be life down there.
Sure.
They looked out the window and saw a fish and they're like, oh shit, there are fish down here.
Right.
No one knew before that.
Right.
And now we know that there's life all the way to the bottom, and even in the sediment underneath the ocean floor, there's bacteria and living stuff. Like up to a mile below the floor of the ocean, there is still life.
What if there's like a super fuel down there, or like a super food?
There's probably fucking everything down there, man.
That's true.
We got colossal squids down there.
Colossal
We have
squids.
whales that go down to those depths to hunt squid.
I found
we got fucking megalodon down there.
Dude. I found an article that said that, to your point about knowing that a whale dove at least 9,000 feet deep.
Yeah.
A lot of that happens from, it's generally from tracking tags. So like, the catch and release tagging of an animal. And then.
How do you catch a whale?
I don't know if they catch them or if maybe they just.
Very carefully.
Yeah, for real. Or if they just like roll up on them and shoot a little tag into the side or fin or something. Gotcha.
Watch out, big bitch.
Very, very big. But one of the articles I found said that
I even had that one.
Gotcha, bitch.
Hey, there it is.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, right. Nailed it. Nailed the timing on that one. That a tagged great white shark was found to have they thought dove somewhere in the realm of like 7,000 or 8,000 feet, which is way too deep for great whites to actually swim to.
Okay.
And when they went to like go find the tag of that shark, it was dead. Like they found it in like just the tag basically.
And it just sunk?
Well, the presumption is that a bigger great white that is capable of living that far down came up, ate the tag of the big great white.
Great whites eat each other sometimes.
Cannibal giant great whites could also be down there.
Yeah, probably are.
Probably are.
Yeah.
Dude,
the scale is so crazy too. Like blue whales are the largest thing on Earth that we know of, but they only exist at a couple thousand feet deep usually. Right. And there's another 10 times that. How do we have no idea. And I would assume, would it make more sense for animals that live under really high pressure to be bigger or smaller? Because you were saying a really big shark would have had to come from deeper to eat the other great white.
I would imagine you'd have to be bigger to be able to like sustain. But there's a lot of little organisms and shit down there.
And you got to have a food supply somehow too. There would have to be other reasonably large animals for you to be eating, right?
I mean, unless you come...
And you got no light. How do you have life with no light? That, like, we haven't talked about this yet, but bioluminescent animals.
Right.
And the animals that live around the, the vents, the heat vents on the ocean floor.
Yeah, man.
There are shrimp that... So the ocean is usually like 30 some degrees that deep because it's just barely liquid and there's no light and there's nothing to heat it.
Yep.
There are scrimps that will live next to these, I forget what the word is. geothermal vents.
Yep.
And the water, like directly adjacent to these vents, is up to 800 degrees Fahrenheit.
Jesus. Is that
First of all, how does water get to 800 degrees?
Well, isn't it releasing like hot gas from inside the earth?
Yeah, which I guess must be hotter than the water and temporarily. I didn't think you could heat water past boiling though.
Well, if it's surrounded by
maybe
all that,
the gas being expelled is 800 degrees.
I would imagine the gas being expelled is 800 degrees, and then the temperatures surrounding it are probably equally or extremely high.
Though?
Are you boiling water that far down?
Oh, because pressure has a lot to do with the boiling point too.
Right.
So maybe the pressure makes the boiling point of water. Jesus, we're getting into some real science here. It sounded
seriously,
real dumb.
Someone who has 1 degree more than us is just like, shut the fuck up.
Somebody tweet us and help us out with pressure and boiling points. I think higher pressure would require a higher boiling point. So maybe that's the answer.
I'm going to believe you because I have nothing to say in contrary.
Somebody either confirm that or tell us that we're morons, please. At WhatIfPod on Twitter.
Yes.
But just I think the craziest part about the whole what if we could map the oceans thing to me is it hugely expands the range of what we thought or what we usually think is possible in terms of life.
Absolutely.
We have things that can live at 300 to 400 times the pressure that we have at the surface of the earth. We have things that can either live in freezing cold temperatures, like a lake underneath a mile of ice, or we have things that can live at 800 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
We have things that can live where there is no light ever.
Right.
They have never seen light.
Right.
We have animals that are suspected of somehow performing photosynthesis without light. I don't even know what that would mean because photosynthesis has the word photo in it.
It requires a very specific
synthesizing
thing.
light into something else.
Yeah.
But all this stuff that doesn't seem like it should be possible, just by like kind of barely dipping our toe into it, we know that this huge range of stuff is possible. And that's exploring 0.05% of it. And when we say exploring, that's mapping it to a distance of a fucking 3 miles across. That's nothing. We can't see, we don't learn anything about what's down there from that.
Right. And I think to your point about that, I think the crazy thing that I then tack onto that is we've spent so much time above the water figuring out how ecosystems work. How do these animals and these plants and these trees and these rocks
and we're leaving out 99% of it.
Yeah. How do all those things talk to each other to make this shit work?
And it's 1% of what's on the planet.
And we have no fucking idea. I mean, obviously, yes, there are people that know some things and we've done dives and we've taken samples from certain places. But generally speaking, from like a much broader perspective, there's a fucking lot we don't know. And that to me is so crazy, especially with the way that like, not to like fucking go down this trail, but like the way that we just go like, fuck it, put it in the ocean. Like, trash, put it in the ocean.
We make whole islands out of plastic.
Put it in the ocean.
But also the things that are down there at 10,000 feet probably would never know.
I mean, they will eventually. That's the problem. Maybe. We're acidifying it and doing all that shit.
And we're going to get superfish.
We already have them, apparently, if there's
get the
cannibalistic
fucking three-eyed fish from The Simpsons and everything will be fine.
Or from Finding Nemo.
Huh?
The
There's a three-eyed fish in Finding Nemo?
No, the bioluminescent.
You're thinking of the lady with 3 boobs from Total Recall.
That is, I have not seen Total Recall, remember?
Fuck.
But I have seen Finding Nemo. What up?
What about Finding Dory?
Hell yeah, I cried so hard at that movie.
I haven't seen it yet. You got me.
Oh, man. I win. Oh, that means we have to stop the episode right now. I won. I saw a movie Spencer hasn't seen.
Yeah, I guess we're about that time.
Yeah, we can, I suppose we can wrap there. I guess a couple just quick announcements. Again, if you guys want to check out patreon.com/whatifpodcast, check it out.
That would be much appreciated.
Yeah, we would love it if you guys wanted to support. I promise we're going to give you some fun shit in return. We're going to maybe start filming some of our episodes behind the scenes in the studio. We said,
give you some free stuff once in a while, give you an extra episode once in a while.
Yeah, we've got some fun ideas for some fun bonus episodes that we haven't really talked about yet. So there'll be a lot more content coming through there, so go ahead and check that out. At What If Pod on Twitter, we've been engaging readily with y'all like every day, so come at us and we'll play with you.
Oh, also, those of you that have been asking about it, there is a Facebook group set up now.
Oh yeah, that did happen. Thanks Gabriel for doing that.
Yeah, so if you want to, I think if you just search, let me try it real quick. If you just search What If Podcast on Facebook.
Was a lie born?
Yeah, under groups. There you go. The What If Podcast group.
Well, looky there.
So do a little Google search for the What If Podcast, or Facebook search for the What If Podcast, and there's some discussion about episodes, and Ryan and I are admins out, so we might throw an announcement in there once in a while. But yeah, that's a good place to hang out with other people who are listening to the show and talk about weird shit if you want to talk about weird shit.
For sure. It's also a good place to get our attention if you want to throw an episode recommendation at us or ask questions, or if you guys want to post links to other stuff. We will definitely be playing around in there. And then lastly, if you also want to do any of that stuff, but you want to share directly with us, hi@whatifpodcast.com. You can send us an email.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll be. Or you can visit us on the interwebs at whatifpodcast.com.
That's us.
That's us. All right. Thank you guys so much. We friggin' love you. And
we'll see you in about a week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
And whatever you're looking for.
Oh, man. I hope you find it.
All right, let's go out. Be safe. And when you're 33,000 feet below the water, whatever you're looking for down there.
Oh, man. I hope you find it.
If you get stuck in a submarine,
don't worry.
Don't worry, you can drink your own sweat.
Love you. Bye. See you next time on another episode of the What If Podcast.